snub nose Smith Wesson. Going to be bluing this. Looks like someone's done some grinding of their own on it. Let's see what kind of shape it's in. Someone's tried to grind the pitting off and done a terrible job. So anyways, that's my burden now. So let's get to it. Clean out the screw slots. And I told you that I use these things for my daughter's little meals, little TV trays. These things are great. Great. There we go. And on these, once you get that off of there, you can tap it through from the other side. I'm going to go ahead, thread this in, just to keep that together there. And I had one of my other revolver videos, I had a gentleman drop me a comment about removing the side plate. It looked to him like I was just prying on the edges, and what I've been doing was taking something like this that's bent and coming underneath there, and I was prying from deep within on both sides. Works fine. He told me there was a better way of doing it, and as I've stated in the past, I am no revolver expert. I'm no expert, period. But I took his advice and did a little research, and I haven't had the opportunity to try it out, but if in fact it does work properly, I'll be very pleasantly impressed and almost feel like a dummy because I was making it very hard. That one was in there pretty good. He also expressed, I guess he couldn't tell that I had, and he probably hadn't watched very many of my videos. You know how I always preach about using proper gunsmith screwdrivers. That was one of the suggestions that he made. Of course, like I said, you could tell he hadn't watched a lot of my videos and didn't know, but that's fine. I really appreciate whenever someone takes the time to offer advice or criticism, either way. Now, the way that they said you do this is you hit it right here and it should pop loose. Look at that. Popped right up. Ha ha ha! Sir, I appreciate your comments. You learn something every day. There we go. Now, On this, I want to show you, you have the three screws there. You see the tips of these screws? Get it to focus in. Well, crap. Tips of those screws. These two here have a kind of a nose on them. This one's just a flat. The one that just is flat is the one that goes underneath the hand grip back here. The two with what I call a little nose, little embossment on there, go on the bottom and over here at the front. Now, once you have removed that, then you can disassemble your yoke and your cylinder. That'll come off. That screw there is what holds the yoke and your cylinder on. It actually fits into that recess there. Checking everything, got good lockup on it. We got that lock back now. Everything, you can see how it all works. Push that back, that's your cylinder release. And when you pull your trigger, it lifts that loose, hammer drops down, boom. This is the hand that's responsible for turning your cylinder. Pull that trigger, double action, it pushes the hammer back and the hand will go up and turn your cylinder. So anyways, once you have it cocked, you're going to notice right down in here a little hole. I like using the snap-on scribe. And something else that he suggested was to use a paper clip for this. I've used the paper clips in the past, and I prefer using a scribe because it gives me a handle. It gives me something to hold on to. With a paper clip, then I'm sitting there trying to hold on that little paper clip. But with this, I've got something I can hold in my hand there, and I prefer that. Put that on there. Now once you've got that in your hole, pull the trigger and let that hammer come down. Now that will come right out of there. Now, let that loose. Get it on something where this is not going to fly out. Push down and pull your scribe out and let your cup and spring uncoil. And that goes like that. Just wanted to remind everyone of this. This is one of my TDC coffee cups. Well used. That's the quotes that I put on my coffee cups. Those who cast the votes decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. Joseph Stalin. I not idolize Stalin, but those words ring true today more so than ever. And in America, and Joseph Stalin was the one that wrote that. Wow, just amazing to me. Just amazing. All right. We're going to use the Smith Master from Gunsmither Tools here. Still in the evaluation of this little unit. You got two sides here. This side here is responsible for the installation. This one here is responsible for the removal. Alright. hand, up and out. Now, we're going to use the Smith Master. Just like that. This thing's gummed up, got a lot of gunk down in there. What I'm doing is I'm just barely pulling up with this scribe. I mean, just barely, and I'm wiggling the trigger. Again, I'm not prying. I'm just barely putting a little bit of upward pressure. Trigger. Now down in there you've got a little coil spring, and that coil spring was responsible for pushing on that little pin that is on the outside of the trigger there. That little pin gets pushed on and it keeps the hand engaged into the cylinder. So whenever you put this back together, you got to remember to get that little coil spring there, the end of it, it's got to be onto that properly. Alright, on your hand here, something that you got to take into consideration. You see this little spring? It's right down in there. Get it to focus. There's a little coil spring down in there. On the hand, you've got two pins there. The larger pin goes through, of course, the pinhole there. Get over here. Maybe you can see there. There you go. Through the pinhole. Then it's got another little slot there that this smaller pin will go through. Now, that little spring has to be up over that pin. Like right now, you can see the end of that spring down in there. Try and get this thing to focus in here. There's the end down in there. There's the end of that spring. But anyways, that spring has to be looped up and over that secondary pin to keep this hand pushed forward. It's got to push it forward. So remember that whenever you go to put it back together, because if you put one of these back together and the cylinder will not rotate, that's a very good chance that's what your problem is. Sorry about that. Alright, for your hammer, you got to pull your cylinder release back, get your hammer to where it clears past that. Same thing as with the trigger. All you're looking to do, you do your wiggling with your hand, and you're just wanting to get something to equalize it, because if you just try and pull on one side, it's gonna get bound up on that shaft. Bound on the shaft. Alright. Enough of that. Enough of that. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. Now this is your sear right here. That's spring loaded underneath there. I am going to remove that. Get to that in a minute. Now we'll remove this. And if anyone's curious about this right here, if you haven't seen these out, it's a pot holder, or they sell it at, I think, Walmart or Big Lots for help with removing lids, like off of jars and stuff, to help you grip it. So, all kinds of things out there to help you do your job. For me, it works real well because it's flexible, it gives, and it allows the subtleties and the protrusions of the gun and everything to sink down in it without being damaged. Here is this little piece of hardware, knurled on the edges. Got a spring in there. You gotta get past that spring. Gunked up a little bit, so now your spring loaded in there. You got a detent, so you want to make sure to turn it down where that doesn't just go flying on you. See right there is your little detent and your spring trying to come out. Trying to be delicate with it there. There's your detent. That's a long one. Right into there. And there's the spring. I was just going to show you how to get it out of there, but it came out and then the detent. Little bitty stuff. So if you put that stuff into your cleaner or whatever it is, it's imperative to make sure you count the number of parts that are going in so you know how many parts that need to come out. Alright, now for your cylinder stop, you got to watch here. You've got a spring down in there. Underneath there's a spring. That's got to be down in order to clear, and you're going to have to come up with it. So, there we go. And once you get that up past your slot in there, you're fine. See the spring there? And sorry for having to cover it up, but I wanted to make sure that spring didn't fly. Another spring, another part. Now our receiver is basically disassembled now. Things that are left. You have a cup in there that goes around the firing pin area. Some of them, they come out easily, some of them they don't. Some of them, once you take it out, you don't put it back in, you put a new one in. I'm not going to take this one out. There's no reason to. Some of them you have to get the firing pin out. If I wanted to remove the barrel, I would undo that pin and then unthread the barrel. If I wanted to remove this detent here, knock that pin out and pull the detent and spring out. I don't know that I need to do that either. I might. Go ahead and remove this pin and the detent as well. Have it started. Pushing through from here. There's just a lot of gunk in it. It is spring loaded, but if it's got a lot of gunk in it, you don't have to worry about it. The notch that you see right there is for the pin that I just drove out to go through. That retains it. Barrel pin, retainer pin. Now, to remove our sear from the hammer, it's very, very straightforward. Very straightforward and simple. Just drive your pin out. Now, you are spring loaded, if you remember, so make sure you hold on to that and pull your pin out, and then slowly lift that up. There's sear spring. There's your sear surface. Tap this pin out. It's a stop. It doesn't have to come out, but it will come out when you're bluing, blasting, doing something. So you might as well go ahead and get it out while you can account for it. Now, on the firing pin, I'm going to just tap on this retaining rivet slash pin and see if it will come loose from barely tapping. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. I don't really have any reason for removing it unless it's gonna come out on its own, and I think it's in there good and tight, so we'll leave it alone. our yoke loose and off. And I'm going to go ahead and grab just a towel or tissue just to wipe off the excess oil that's on that one. And you've got your unit here. What you're going to do is this will actually, let me get my vacuum cleaner belt and I'll tighten the harness. Like I said in the past, this is a vacuum cleaner belt. Real thick and tough. I've been using it for a long time. It works really, really well. Now, these are reverse threads on this. So, get you a good grip on it. You tighten it like that. It's I guess it really depends on which way you're looking at it from. But either way, this is the direction that you turn your threads. See, it looks like I'm tightening it, so it's reverse threads. You get to the end of your threads, you want to hold this all together. Make sure that it's not able to come loose. There we go. There's that. There you go.